Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an Airbus pilot, and welcome to this tutorial for the descent in the Airbus A300. We've just been cleared to an altitude below the transition level, and that means that we can now go ahead and select the local QNH. Easy way to get that from the My Flight app, update the METAR once again, and here we go, it's 3023, so let's go ahead and select that. So 3023 on the primaries and 3023 on the standbys as well. Do note that the Airbus does not have QNH compensation for your descent, so you might have to use a little bit of speed brake in order to get back onto the profile in case you're getting above the profile. It also tells you more drag to notify you that some speed brake is required in order to maintain the profile. As we're descending below the transition altitude and we're in the United States, we're going to switch on the landing lights. Now, if we were not in the United States, but in any other country, we'd just do them at 10,000 above mean sea level or above the field elevation if you're approaching an airport with a high elevation. Also, at this point, we can turn the seatbelt signs on. So we're slowly in progress to re-intercept that vertical profile there. We have met our descent restriction over at OPI already, and we are slowly but steadily making our way towards the clouds. So let's use the opportunity and discuss usage of anti-ice in the descent. So the important thing for us here, speed brake going back in, we're back on the profile and within the acceptable speed range. So the important thing for us to notice here is that in the descent, when we are entering the icing conditions, which again are defined by a temperature of plus 10 degrees centigrade or less, then we are going to turn on the anti-ice no matter what the SAT actually is, contrary to the climb. Now, initially we are only going to use the engine anti-ice, and the wing anti-ice will only be used if actual icing conditions exist. Now, Airbus has been rather smart when they built the airplane, and they gave us that little icing indicator on the front of the windshield there. If this thing starts to ice up, then we also have ice on the wings, and therefore we can turn on the wing anti-ice as well in order to clear the wings of any contamination for the approach. Alright, for now temperature is plus 12, so we don't need to worry about anti-icing, but do take into account that as soon as you fly into the clouds, there is a good chance that the TAT is going to drop by like 2 or 3 degrees centigrade. So in that case, the use of anti-ice might have to be considered. Okay, so that much about our general descent theory. Now, as always, we are going to use our basic theory here. So that basically tells us that if we are descending in idle thrust per 1000 foot of altitude loss, we need 1 nautical mile, or in level flight, we need about 1 nautical mile to lose 10 knots of speed. The airplane has just started its deceleration towards 250 knots. Once it reached those, we are going to cross 10,000 feet, and then we are going to make sure that the landing lights are on regardless of where we are flying, and we're going to turn on the runway turn-off lights as well below 10,000. Now, the ignition should be set to continuous if continuous relight is required, which is the case in expected icing conditions, heavy rain or turbulence on approach. So, since we do expect to fly through icing conditions on the approach, it's temperature plus 8 and certainly rather foggy. Since we do expect that, we are going to use anti-ice. Now, again, we're getting slightly high on the profile here, so we might just about help the airplane a little bit, but always keep thinking along for the VNAV. So VNAV on the A300 is a rather basic tool. It is not going to be very precise, so for that reason, I'm just looking at this. The airplane is doing a nice 1,600 feet a minute rate of descent. We got to cross Sibov above flight level 70 and at 230 knots. So we are looking rather good, even though the progress page tells us we're 480 feet above the profile. But I do believe we are rather good at the moment, and in case we really need to, we can still pull the speed brake at any time. Okay, so relaxed use of the speed brake, that is what I like to call it, and it is rather important indeed. So we're below 10,000 feet, we are clear to an altitude, so we've got the local QNH set. That means we can read the approach checklist, so let's go ahead and get that out. Approach checklist. Signs on. Briefing confirmed. Ecam status checked. Altimeters 3023 cross-checked. Minimums 50-foot decision height, set left and right. Ignition. We're about to enter the clouds, so let's go ahead and turn that ignition on together with the engine anti-ice. Okay, ignition is continuous and landing elevation 800 foot set, and that is the approach checklist complete. So, how are we doing in terms of altitude? Reducing towards 210 for Patron, and then I am going to give it a little bit of speed brake now in order to meet our restriction at Patron, which is 6,000 feet at 210 knots. Speed is coming back nicely. I'm just using partial speed brake, as you can see, not full speed brake. Gotta descend another 1,303 miles, so I will give it a little bit of speed brake there, but we are definitely going to be able to make that restriction. Do note that if you pull the speed brake, your VLS is going to come up, so if you look at that, I'm going to stow the speed brake now. And show effect, obviously nothing happens right now. Normally this should be going up as the speed brake is pulled. But 2 nautical miles, 800 feet, we're going to be close enough by the 6,000 at Patron that we are good to go. Okay then, turning on to the downwind, and at this point we are going to continue our descent once again. Let's go down to 3,000, and those 3,000 feet, let's quickly see if they're at or below the MSA. Just below it. So we could do 3,100. So remember, if we don't want to change it in thousands but in hundreds, then just push it in. Now you can change it in hundreds. Okay, we are turning onto the downwind track, and after one up, the star tells us to continue flying straight ahead. So we are going to turn onto that downwind now, and once we're on it, which is pretty much now, match the heading buck, full heading, level change. And here we go. Okay, temperature still plus 12. Let's take that anti-ice off again. We'll keep the ignition on continuous relight already as per the normal checklist. Alright, so in order to time your base turn, if you don't have a star that leads you directly onto the final, you can easily use the range to altitude ring over here. So by backturn we need to be in 3,000, and 10 miles out we should be flying roughly 200 knots. So what we'll do is the following. We're going to switch our ILS active now, so that we get to see the DME of our ILS. And we know the backturn is roughly on a 10-mile final, so at beam backturn we are going to start our base turn, and we're going to level the airplane at 3,000, which is below the MSA, but is the crossing altitude for backturn. So that is going to be fine. You can see on the chart that the highest obstacle is at 1,300 down there, so don't need to worry about that. Your glide slope is also a good indicator to start your final turn. So basically when you're below the glide slope, then that's a good moment to go base and then eventually go final. As you can see, works pretty well over here. So let's go ahead and make our left-hand turn. We're looking for a heading of 140, which is going to be our heading for the base turn. Typical speed on the base should be about 180 knots, so once we're going into alt star up here, I'm going to extend the flaps to 1, which is now. Speed checked. That's 15, and now we can take our speed back towards the slat speed. Like that. Temperature plus 14, so we don't need to worry about anti-ice. And here we are. Okay, let's clean up the flight plan by taking it direct to backturn. Insert. And all we got to do now is to time our final turn, and then we're good to intercept the ILS. Alright, that's going to be it for the approach tutorial. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, do let me know in the comments below. Looking forward to your input, and in the meantime, if you liked the video, be sure to leave a like in YouTube as well, as it does help with the algorithms. And then I'm looking forward to see you guys again on the next one. If you love what I'm doing, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. But in the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and see you all again right on the next one.